Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. We are going to start our meeting today. Lucy, everyone is here?
All 12 members are here, so I'm not wasting your time with a roll call.
Thank you. However, the one thing that we are going to do, as we always do, that's a tradition, is have Erwin do a treasurer's report.
Excuse me. As usual, the treasurer's report is that everything is okay. We're not exceeding our budget. People are sending in their invoices as they should. They're getting reimbursed for what they're doing. So that's fine. But I do want to ask Bitsy to say something about the Employee Appreciation Fund.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're doing very, very well. Ladies and gentlemen, we're doing very, very well in the Employees Appreciation Fund. And we're on the same place that we were last year. And last year we raised more money than we ever raised before. So we're very excited about it. I want to say thank you to all of you who have already given, and a special thank you to you who are about to give. And we're doing very well. Thank you.
And I have an additional, it's okay? I have an additional report to make, nothing to do with the treasurer's report, but I'll get it in now. And that is that Jim Hutton and Steve Jennings have put together a goal of acquiring the medical histories of all of our Whitney Center veterans. And this would be very helpful when we celebrate the various holidays, such as Veterans Day, etc. And also, it's going to provide an archive and a repository of veterans and how they served, etc. Just, it's like getting to know you. But it'd be nice for them, for the folks living here and their families to have this information. So I just want to let you know that you may be contacted by one of them to get some history and get some details. So looking forward to doing this project.
Thank you, Erwin. Thank you, Betsy.
I guess for Bitsy, how much have you collected for the employees?
Betsy, how much have you collected so far?
Oh, gosh. 84,000. Wait till you hear this. 80?
Yeah, it's on.
Wait a
It's on.
minute.
It's on.
It's on, Bitsy.
It's on.
Yes.
It's not on.
It's
Not on.
How much?
I mean, I gotta get this on so you can hear this. Here. 84,000 has already come in so far. Isn't that fantastic? Give yourself a big cheer.
On behalf of the Residents' Council Committee and all the residents, I would like to extend our congratulations to the 13 recipients of the Whitney Center grants and our appreciation to Whitney Center and the grant committee. Thank you very much. We have all seen how beautiful the grounds look. And the new umbrellas at the patio are not only lovely, but they are especially easy to open and close, something that we, the residents, could not do ourselves before. So thanks to this thoughtful person who realized that this was important to us. The Residents' Council has several questions for the administration. And I'm going to address the first question to Mike, if you mind. Okay. Mike, can you tell us what Whitney Center is doing in terms of management development and staff retention?
Yeah, thanks, Susie. So I had mentioned this at the town meeting, and we plan to talk about it every month to give a report on how we're doing. But as you, I think are by now are well aware, hopefully well aware, we are challenged with staffing, as is pretty much every organization in the country, especially those that have healthcare staff, registered nurses, CNAs, and so forth, as well as hospitality staffing, like housekeeping and maintenance and dining services staff. So this is not a new issue, nor is it a short-term issue. It will be protracted, I think, for, at least on the registered nursing side, for years. And so as we navigate sort of these workforce issues, we need to focus on a couple of things, primarily what we're doing on the recruitment side. That is, how do we continue to attract new employees here to Whitney Center? And on the retention side, how do we keep those longstanding employees that we want to stay and make it such a compelling workplace that newer employees want to stay as well? And so over the last year and a half, we've been doing quite a bit, actually. We introduced a new full-time recruiter position that is out there, creating relationships, developing leads, making sure that we understand how to write ads, recruitment ads, and so on, and doing a lot of work up front. And we're seeing some of those numbers get a little better. However, as much as we do sort of at the front door, we need to control the back door, and that is to continue to invest in our employees, in all of our team members, particularly those that are doing the direct service, direct care work, whom many of you know very well. And so we understand that most people leave a place of work not necessarily because of pay, not necessarily because of benefits, but rather primarily because of their relationship or lack thereof with their supervisor. That is the number one reason people leave a job. So, understanding that, we still have a responsibility to make sure all those other things are being addressed, make sure we pay competitively, constantly looking at our benefits package to make sure we're offering good benefits that are relevant, meaningful to our workforce, but primarily focusing on that relationship with the supervisor. And what we're recognizing, and we've known this for a while, we're just able to do more about it these days, and it's more focused for us. Many of our line supervisors has sort of grown up into their roles. They've not attended business school, they've not had any formal management training. They've simply been good at the function, right, that, of carrying out the tasks that they're used to, and been elevated to a supervisor position, and from there to a manager's position, maybe even to a director position, and so all without any formal training. And so what happens is they tend to then just repeat all the things that they learned, right, when they were working in those jobs, and they're just bringing those things forward because that's what they know. And today's workforce is a very different workforce than we had even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, much less 15, 20 years ago. And therefore, we need to understand that the employer-employee relationship is much, much different. We need to invest our time and energy as well as other resources in the whole person that's coming here to work and to give of their talent and their gifts and their time. And that requires skills in the areas of leadership, in management, and coaching. And those aren't skills necessarily that come naturally, right, to most people. And so therefore, we are making that investment, a concerted effort in the development of our management team, from myself, our vice presidents, our directors, managers, supervisors, so that we can develop the skill sets necessary to engage our team members on a deeper level and make this a place where they want to come to work, where they are fulfilled by the work that they choose to do. They feel connected to the organization and a sense of belonging, such that their contribution is one that is driven from a place of passion, care, and concern rather than by obligation to, for a paycheck. And so this philosophy is something we're moving forward and we're investing in. Last December, we engaged an executive coaching firm to come in and work with the senior management team. That's all the vice presidents and myself, and at substantial cost to work on understanding how our own tendencies, our own default strategies, many of the times which are unconscious, influence the way we interact with our team members. And that's gone so well. We've seen such a dramatic change already that we decided to accelerate that for the rest of the management team. And we're able to now do that because of the generosity of our philanthropy council. We're able to pay for the rest of the management team to go through a 5 to 7 month development process this year. And so we're doing that, and we're already seeing some differences in the way that we are all engaging with our team members, our direct service team members. At the same time, we want to continue to invest and make sure that we have the right, that we're competitive salary-wise, that we continue to have good benefits. Certainly, programs like the grant program, the scholarships that our employees are receiving certainly help. The Employee Appreciation Fund is a huge benefit to them. It shows that we appreciate them. It shows that we want to engage them and we care about them more than just for the tasks that they're able to fulfill on a daily basis. And so that's sort of an overview of all the work that we're doing. There's much more that I can talk about, but I'll save some for the town meeting at which we will, Karen Lushinks, our Vice President for Employee Services, will give a monthly report on what we're doing from a recruitment standpoint, a retention standpoint, and some of the activities therein.
Thank you, Mike. We look forward to those reports.
Okay.
Esther, you had a question? Yeah.
Okay. During the planning session for this meeting, I brought up a subject that Susie felt that might be interest to everyone here, and that is the requests from community groups to use the CAC for meetings. These are outside groups from the community. As part of the Government Affairs Advisory Council, we want to establish the fact that Windy Center is not an isolated entity, but that we are involved and contribute to the community around us. In other words, that we are a part of the community and not so separate from it. With that in mind, would we like to see more community groups use our CAC? I was informed by one of our residents that in the original charter, because we are a nonprofit, that there would be no charges for the use of the CAC. Now I learned that a donation is asked. This is requested. This isn't mandatory from community groups. Because of COVID, community groups have avoided applying to Whitney Center for group meetings, obviously. So do we want to encourage more groups to come here? Would we get more groups here if we did not ask for a donation? Of course, if food and changes of scenery and setups and the use of technology services are needed, there would have to be a charge, of course. We do have some groups scheduled to come here. And I was just thinking that it might be nice to send a letter to the groups that have come here in the past and to invite them back and to welcome them back. That's it.
Susie, did you want me to
Yes,
respond
please,
to that?
would you
Yeah.
mind?
So, Mrs. Crystal, I appreciate the question and the thoughtfulness behind it. So to give a little background, I review our charter twice a year, and there's nothing in the charter that says that we will not charge for space here at Whitney Center. So I'm not sure where that comes from, but let me disabuse you of that notion. Beyond that, traditionally, we have, actually, when I got here in 2005, one of the things that the then CEO said to me was that Whitney Center seems like the best kept secret in Connecticut because we are a stone's throw from all of these incredible institutions and no one knows we're here. The only one that knew we were here was Yale because of the connection that we have with the academics from, who come to retire here or continue to work here while they live. So in 2005, I started a concerted effort to attract more organizations, to create relationships with community organizations by offering space that we had, as well as creating sponsorships of multiple community organizations. And that was all an effort to really elevate the awareness of Whitney Center. Over that course of time, we built the South Building and we built this space. And one of the ideas that I had specifically, was that we needed to be like a gateway space, outside folks from the community coming in and ourselves, right, going out to the community. And that was the whole idea behind some of the spaces that we built. We also recognized that we were giving away a lot of our time for the use of these spaces, because regardless of catering, there's setups to be done, there's cleaning to be done, there's a cost associated with the use of the space. We don't now, and so we decided that any for-profit entities that wanted to use our space, we would charge them appropriately for those services. And not-for-profits, we would ask them for a donation because we felt that that was appropriate if they could give to offset some of the costs, because it's not free to you all. It does cost money to do these things. COVID slowed that down. In fact, prior to COVID, we were so busy with outside groups that we actually shifted around our staff and created an event manager position. We were doing so many events to the detriment of internal meetings. And some of you might recall, some of you actually raised the issue with me that there were too many outside meetings because we couldn't schedule resident programs, and so it was becoming an issue. And there was a lot going on. So COVID was an opportunity to reset and kind of rethink the way we do this. And so we are not yet back to full staff. Therefore, we're not sort of going out and say, come on in, we're happy to have you again. But at the same time, we want to be open to those outside organizations. But we can't overwhelm ourselves from a staffing perspective, from a resource perspective in general. Now, whether or not the, outside communities' inclination to come and use our spaces is inhibited by a request for a donation, I don't know. I don't have sufficient, information to say yes or no. But it's something we can ask them as we start to ramp up again. But I can tell you, we have a more robust resident program function now than we ever have. We have a lot of stuff going on here, and we actually have a more robust partnership between residents and administration and management than we've ever had, and that causes more meetings, right? The need for more meeting space. So we have to be very discerning about how we utilize our space. All that said, we are a community not-for-profit, and as a community not-for-profit, we have to demonstrate social accountability. In fact, there is a requirement. It hasn't been enforced as far as I know, but there is an IRS requirement that we demonstrate sufficient community responsibility, social accountability to justify our not-for-profit status. So we do some charity care. So, right, so as people run out of money, as any Life Care resident who has signed a contract runs out of money, we provide those services for the rest of your life at no additional cost, because that's the risk we take. So that's part of our charitable structure. However, we also, in the daily operations of things, we need to demonstrate that we are a good citizen. We partner with other organizations, so there is a place for it. But I don't think it's cut and dry, and that we can invite so many outside communities, and we should have a sustained level of that, because it'll ebb and flow. But I do want to reassure the council and residents in general that this is top of mind for us, because it is, other than being a good corporate citizen and being a good not-for-profit in the greater New Haven area, it's a good business decision to continue to make the community aware of who we are, what we stand for, the kinds of things that we do here. And so this is not lost on us that we're not where we were prior to COVID. I don't know that we'll get back to that level, but we're certainly moving in that direction.
Thank you, Mark. That was very informative. Personally, I learned a lot.
I just want to say, confess that I'm the person who said this was in the charter, but actually, when I first came here, I was told that the reason that we provide space to outside organizations is because we are a nonprofit organization, and I was told that somehow was built in to that configuration, because we are nonprofit, we have to provide some space.
Yeah.
So
That's probably that social accountability piece.
Yeah.
That's where that would
that's where
come
this
from.
all came
Yeah.
from.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark,
Okay.
very much.
All right.
We have several questions from Ken now. And Orwin, you have the first question.
Yeah, the first question is that the housekeeping staff seems to change periodically for each individual person. So in my particular case, I've had one person come for 4 or 5 weeks, and then that person is gone, and a new person comes for 4 or 5 weeks, and then that person is gone. Then I get another one. And each time I have to retrain, so they get used to the apartment. So the question is, what is the reason, and other residents have said the same thing, that they don't have the same person all the time, it keeps changing. And so the question is, why, and what can we do about it?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It goes along somewhat with what Mike said about our recruitment and our retention of our staff. We are committed, from a housekeeping perspective, to have a full staff that is assigned to an individual residence, and that relationship goes on and on and on. That's the vision. That's what we want, and we will continue to work towards that. It's about hiring the right staff. It's about training the staff. It's the relationship with that staff, and so we're working towards that. As Mike mentioned, we weren't fully staffed, and so what we did is we brought some outside agency and outside contractor in to help supplement some of our staff. We are getting towards full staffing in our housekeeping, so I think it's sooner rather than later that we will have that one-on-one relationship and that commitment from an individual staff person to you, the resident. That being said, stuff does happen. We hire staff, we train them. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes a staff person will call in sick. So I don't want to say that it's always going to be forever, that that will happen, but we hope that's minimized, and we're working towards that.
Roz, I think you had a question as well.
You want me to speak now? My questions today are about hallway temperatures and my questions today are about hallway temperatures and maintenance availability during the weekends. You want me to ask the first one, Ken, or should I ask both?
Well, I can basically take what you just said and answer those if you, I'll take both of them right now, actually.
Well, no, let me tell you about them first. Many residents are asking questions why the hallways in the north building are so cold. I had to put on a sweater to leave my apartment. And what's the problem? I was just informed by a resident of the south building that on the second floor hallway, that's very, very cold. So that's the problem with the hallways.
Okay, do you want me to address that now?
Okay, fine, thank you.
Yeah, I'll repeat that. So the question is, the temperature in the hallways are cold, both in the north and the south. That's what I'm hearing. That's what the question. We had some residents that have been complaining. I'm going to ask, at the town meeting, I'm actually going to ask Dan to explain how our cooling system works, because I think that's important that everybody understands how it works. But what I can tell you is all of you have either been in your homes or condos, and when you set a thermostat at a certain temperature, let's say it's 72, but you go to the air that's coming out to heat up or cool down that room, at the source, it's either going to be warmer or colder. So that's a little bit of the reason why there's certain sections of the hallway it might be colder at certain times, because where the air is coming in from the outside needs to be cooled, and then it gets dispersed. Dan will certainly have a better explanation and talk to you about how our whole system works. But just remember that typically that's how things work. You have a thermostat at a certain location, and that's where the sensor is. The source is a different location, and so it's going to be colder at that different location. So, but Dan will definitely give more of an explanation, and Mike's always a person that knows a lot about this too. So I don't know if you want to add anything in particular, or
If you want me to.
yeah, we'll wait for Dan, because Dan will tell the source, but Dan will give more of an explanation. Yes, Mr. Kaplan.
In the south building, the hallways provide makeup air for the apartments. The doors are slightly undercut to the corridor, and the toilet exhaust pulls air from the corridor, which is a little cooler, to cool off the apartment and exchange air. In other words, if we didn't have that, the apartments would become stuffy.
Yeah. So it's a north building. There's an exchange of air. So the air's coming in from the outside into the hallways. It's going through underneath the door in the apartments, and there's an airflow going, and it goes back out in through the bathroom. So if we didn't have that system, the rooms would be stuffy. So there's an air exchange going on. That's what Mr. Kaplan was saying, which is true. And again, Dan will certainly give a full explanation at our town meeting.
Okay. Regarding maintenance on the weekends. Regarding maintenance on the weekends. Okay. Oh. Regarding maintenance on the weekends, I had the problem on the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend. I went into my living room, and I was a leak from the above apartment. Water was on the window sill and about 1 inch on the floor. I called the north desk. I told her my problem and asked for maintenance to come. She told me that there was no maintenance on the weekends. I know that there is someone in maintenance on call all the time. She should have been given this information in her training. This is very important. She offered to have housekeeping bring me a bucket. This was no solution. I insisted then that she send security to my apartment. Tyrone and security called the maintenance person on call. He had the number for that and was told what to do. The problem was solved by Tyrone fixing the hoses in the above air conditioning. Now, if I didn't know that information, I could have had a really severe problem. So that's why I feel that training of the new staff is very important. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that to our attention, and we agree. The training is critically important. In fact, when I heard about that, I know Melissa has resent out a message specifically to that to remind our staff that we have maintenance on call 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Security is here on the weekends and the evenings, and they do triage, and they work very closely with our maintenance staff. As you said, Tyrone went there and took care of the situation. So we will certainly remind our staff about our reception staff about that, and we agree with the education and training. That's critically important.
Foz, you're okay with that answer?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Okay. You're still staying at the podium, Ken, because we have a couple more questions for you. Several residents have asked for update on the robotic chair. What can you tell us?
So the autonomous wheelchair, the robotic wheelchair, the autonomous, an update on that. So I will tell you, at the last town meeting, I believe Raphael spoke to this. Raphael's not here today, so I'm taking a couple of Raphael's questions. Raphael made comment that the company was looking for payment to even do the trial here. He mentioned that at the town meeting, and there was a little bit of an uproar here about that, the residents saying, why would we have to pay for a trial? Raphael went back to the company and actually negotiated a free trial. Raphael is in the process now of coordinating that trial, so he'll have more information either via email or some type of communication, or definitely at the next town meeting. So that is forthcoming.
Excellent. We're looking forward to that as well.
Yes.
Next question, Ken, is some of us have heard that the governor will be here on June 28th. Can you say a few words about that?
Sure. So some of you may or may not remember that the Hampden Chamber of Commerce always sponsors or invites the governor to speak to the Hampden business community. And for a number of years, Whitney Center has always been the host site. And clearly, the last couple of years with COVID, we have not been able to do that in 2020 and 2021. But I will tell you, we've been working very closely with the Hampden Chamber to secure a date where the governor will come in here and speak to the business community. So he's coming in on June 28th, and there's a little breakfast and a Q&A session with the governor. We do always secure one table. We have our residents on our Government Affairs Advisory Council will be coming to that event. But not only that, we will also show the event live on Channel 102 for our residents here. We will also tape it to rebroadcast it. And if we have more space available, we'll let the residents know. And so we can probably have some more residents come besides our advisory council. And Susie, I'll work very closely with you on that, like on a wait list, if you will.
Okay, thank you. Phyllis, any question? And Erwin, any question as well, since you're the co-chairs of the Government Affairs?
I asked Susie if I could make a report about our brunch that we held in May. And yes, it's a month away, month in the past. But I did receive so many compliments on how well and efficiently the brunch was run. Now, I want everyone to realize that wasn't me. That was all the people that came and helped me. And I do want to thank, this is my sheet, the following people helped make it a success. dum-dum. Here we are. Melissa DeGrand, Paige Giannotti, Lucy Umbach, Ken and Peggy. Peggy and Ken greeted the people when they came in and really made friends with them immediately. They loved it. To think that, VIPs would come down and meet them, they thought they did love that. And then Mike, you weren't there, but they felt you were because Ken made them feel that you were. So it all worked out very nicely. And it would not have been the success that it was without all these wonderful people chipping in and helping. Thank you very much.
Ken, I have a question to ask you. I had the experience where I wanted to call a new resident here, and I knew that that telephone number wasn't going to be in the directory because they had just moved in, and the directory had been given to us 6 months ago. So I thought I would go online and look at the online directory, thinking that it would be in there, and it wasn't in there. So I thought that we could do something to rectify this. Will you answer that?
Yeah, thanks, Evelyn, for the question. So I'm going to answer that by Raphael, and was a question for Raphael, but I'm taking this as well. Raphael has been leading a charge, working very closely with Maria and Janet to implement a new resident engagement platform for us, and there'll be more information about that forthcoming. In this platform, we'll have the ability for resident phone numbers immediately as residents move in, the numbers will be updated. But not only that, resident profiles, something that Dr. Braverman is working on in terms of the veterans, getting information like that into this type of platform will be forthcoming. So that will be forthcoming, and again, Raphael is leading the charge, working very closely with Maria and Janet and his team. So that's forthcoming, but in the interim, for phone numbers, and I hear what you're saying, like when you're looking for a phone number, right now you call the front desk, right? And we're trying to minimize calls to the front desk. We know the phone numbers are actually, new resident phone numbers are posted in My WC Life that goes out weekly. What we're going to do, and we spoke to Janet about this, is once a month just send out a posting of all the residents that have moved in that month to make it a little bit easier for residents to look for those phone numbers. So we'll do a little patchwork. That's pretty easy. We spoke about that until this new platform comes aboard.
Question for Raphael. We seem to have lost the ability to both receive and send faxes from our own computers or printers. Could he address that at the meeting?
Yes. Yeah.
And if you're finished, could we hear from Peggy?
I'll be finished as soon as the chair tells me I'm finished.
I think you're dismissed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And of course, we wouldn't have a residence committee meeting without Peggy. Peggy, you have the list of questions. I'm not going to
Sure, I can just
guide
go
you
through
on
them.
that.
Okay. So just an update on COVID. I promise it's going to be just a one-sentence line. I'm excited that I was asked to talk about other things other than COVID. We only have one resident in the building currently that is positive COVID, soon to be off quarantine. No team members. So, and I don't know if you follow the percentages, but we're down into the single digits. So things are looking good. This particular virus doesn't like the warmer weather. That's probably why we're improving. So I don't know if anybody has any COVID questions. If not, I'd love to move on. Meryl?
At the last meeting and this meeting, you mentioned the current residents, but I think it gives us an overall picture, because when I spoke to you after that, there were more in the month of May than had been reported.
Yeah,
Can you tell us in June how many people?
Yeah, I don't usually give a cumulative report because we send out the memos. I give you what's happening within that 7-day rolling average. So it's 1 currently. I don't have the numbers with me for like the month of May or the month of June, but the numbers have been minute, very, very small.
I know you were giving it weekly, but that was when we were receiving weekly notices.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying it would be helpful to know.
Yeah, again, I send out a memo when we have a positive case, and I was requested at the last town meeting to send out that information. So when I had the positive case, we sent a memo out the same day. So if you're not hearing from me, it does mean we don't have any current residents.
Okay, I thought I had heard of some.
You know, and I mentioned before, we do have residents on monitoring. I don't include them because they're only being monitored because they were exposed to someone with COVID. It does not mean that they are positive COVID. So they have different restrictions. So because, you know, if I'll use, Dr. Braverman, can I use you as an example? Sure, he doesn't mind. If Dr. Braverman becomes positive today, I'm going to probably look at most of the resident council that were within 6 feet of them, and I'm going to put them all on monitoring. That's what we call contact tracing. So whoever Dr. Braverman's been in touch with, we try to get a hold of wherever he's been. We kind of look at your activities over the last 2 days, and that's how we come up with our monitoring list. So it's much bigger. All right, so I've been asked to talk about monkeypox. So we've moved from COVID to monkeypox. I don't know if many of you know, it's a very rare disease. I don't know if many of you know, it's been around since 1958. So this is not new. The first human recorded monkeypox was in 1970. So again, it's very rare. Currently, there's 49 cases in the United States. It does spread through direct contact with the skin of someone with monkeypox. So a lot of the literature that you read has a lot to do with intimate touching. So if someone has pustules or a rash on their arm and you end up touching them, rubbing arm to arm, that's how it's spread. So the transmission is person to person, direct person to person contact. So there's a lot written about, different types of contact that could cause this particular thing. It is known to be more prevalent, even though it's pretty low. It's only 49 in the United States so far. It is known to be more prevalent amongst homosexual men because, again, it's intimate contact. But again, if someone has monkeypox in the community, you'll certainly know so that we can all be aware because we want to quarantine that person. The recovery is very different than COVID. There are medications out there that can help the speed of the recovery. It's generally 2 to 4 weeks to have. What happens is you get these little blister-like pustules on your arm, your face, it could be anywhere. And it takes about 2 to 4 weeks for those pustules to fall off your skin and heal. And once you're healed, you're no longer contagious. So I know that's a quick summary, but is there anything else anyone would like to know about monkeypox?
Make some comments, if you can, about the relationship between smallpox vaccination.
Sure. So it's the same grouping. It's the exact same grouping as smallpox. So most of us know what smallpox is because we've had it as a child, et cetera. This monkeypox is the same type of virus that comes from smallpox. And actually, all of the medications, except for one newer one, was what was used for treating smallpox. So it's been around for years.
So the vaccine for smallpox? Yeah.
Yes, yep. There is an oral form of a pill now as well. And they're working on a new one that wasn't around for smallpox. They're looking at zeroing in on just the monkeypox. But it originated over in Africa. So in the beginning, it really was, people were catching it with international travel. But it is in the United States. There's 49 cases across the state. As far as I know, as of last night, when I looked at this, there was none in Connecticut so far. But I will keep you informed if there's, as I always say, if there's need to worry, I'll let you know. Anything else with monkeypox?
I just wanted to hear you say the word.
Monkeypox? I'm just happy not to say COVID. I was also asked to speak about two other topics. One is the vial of life. I'm sure most of you understand what it is, but I thought I would spend a minute just to kind of refresh everybody's memory. So when you move in here, a nurse should have given you, or possibly your liaison, even before you moved in here, gave you what's called a personal information vial of life form. It looks like this. It's 2 pages. Actually, it's 3 pages, front and back, and then another one. And it's all your vital information. That's why it's called the vial of life. This information gets sent out with you when you have an emergency in your apartment. So again, every time there's a change, you get a new medication, you get taken off a medication, you should be going to your vial of life and making that updated change on this paper. What we send to the hospital, we want to have it be the most up-to-date and current information. Because if we send them wrong information, your chances of getting a wrong medication or something that, if you decided to make yourself a do not resuscitate, we don't have that noted, you run the risk of not having the proper treatment. So a question came up, I think a resident here had an emergency and they did not see the nurse hand this vial of life, which they should take out of your refrigerator, to the ambulance driver. What I did, I followed up after I heard that. I spoke with Michelle Stocking, and she said very often, especially if the person is on assisted living services, they do get routine doctor's orders. So the nurses generally know if their form is more up to date, they will have a CNA meet them in the lobby or at some point to get the most up-to-date information, because we really try to give them the most current. So everyone should go out with a form, whether the person saw them, a nurse hand it to them or not. I'm pretty confident to say, because it's been our policy for years, this goes with them. If for some reason it's a real urgent emergency and they don't have time to get the form, we do fax it over to the hospital, because we want them to have at least this minimum information on this form. Anything with the vial of life? Greg?
The vial of life in the refrigerator, do you have a recommendation about where it's put? I'm not sure how I'm concerned about vegetables.
Yeah, we ask for it to be on the door. So if you can put it on one of the shelves on your door, so that if the nurses don't find it, they'll go through your vegetables looking for it. So if you don't want them to do that, it's best just to put it on the door so that we can have easy retrieval, because time is usually of the essence if you're in an emergency. And do keep this up to date as things change, because when you're in the middle of a crisis, let's say you're having chest pain and the ambulance is here to take you to the hospital, you don't want to be saying, oh, by the way, I meant to write on my form, the doctor just put me on XYZ medication. First of all, you're probably not even going to think about it, because all you can think about is the overwhelming pain in your chest. So again, you want to make sure every time there's a change to please take the time to change it on the form.
Where can we get new forms?
So I brought a stack with me today, because I kind of assumed you'd be asking for new ones, but the community health on the 5th floor, their offices, they have them all the time. If you want an electronic version, just reach out to them. They can also send you an electronic version so you can fill it out on your computer. But again, print it out and put it in your refrigerator. Don't just keep it on your computer.
I have magnets that came with my vial of life. I assume everybody has those magnets that looks like an ambulance. I think it's red and white. So and that will indicate, and put it outside your refrigerator, and that will indicate that it's in there.
Correct. Yeah, thanks for that. Ralph?
Peggy?
Vial of life has gone to the hospital. Is there some procedure about replenishing it to the refrigerator?
Yes, so the nurses...
Emergency not too long ago. I have no idea what's in the refrigerator anymore.
Right. So the nurses, when they send someone to the hospital, as long as we know about it, which is the majority of the residents that go out, the nurses have copies and they replace it. So just go back and make sure there's a replacement in there, just to make sure, because if you use it, it's taken with you, but we ask for a copy to be given to the community health department, so they have it.
Peggy, can you explain? I'm sorry, did someone else?
No, that's okay, Phyllis.
Okay. I've just become more familiar with DNRs than I was before. But one of the things I learned about it is that if I have my DNR and I don't want to go to the hospital because I don't want to live, there's also another DNR type of thing that you write, do not send to hospital. Is that known?
So that was my next topic. Deanie, did you have a question about the vial of life?
There was some discussion about people accompanying people who were alone. I thought, what's been done with that?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we don't have the staffing to send a staff member with you. We do call families unless you refuse to let us call. There are some residents that don't want their sons or daughters or nieces and nephews knowing they're going to the hospital, and we honor your wishes. But most of our residents want family to know so that they can meet them at the hospital. So unfortunately, we can't afford to send someone with that resident. The liaisons do keep pretty good contact with what's happening as you're in the hospital, and we have a full-time employee, Erica Austin, that looks at, it's called Epic. So if you're on Epic, you have good coverage. If you don't have Epic, it's a little bit harder for us to get information, but we do follow you the entire time you're in the hospital. But it's not, I understand what you're saying, you're looking for an advocate to go with you. But unfortunately, we don't have the manpower for that. It's come up many, many times over the years, and even before our staffing crunch, you can't really employ someone to just sit there and wait for an emergency to happen. And yet you can't really pull someone off an assignment because then that assignment doesn't have a team member. So the best thing is, your families, have those discussions with your family. If something happens to me, who should I tell them to call? Which one of you will be more available to meet me at the hospital? If you have family out of town or out of state, I know that's difficult. A friend, someone that could come and be your advocate.
Can a friend, neighbor be designated as an advocate?
Yeah, that would be between you and your friend, if you want to make that work. I will tell you, the hospitals aren't letting in many visitors. So for your friend to get in is going to be pretty close to impossible nowadays. Yeah. The only thing they recently did, they have allowed a care partner. It's new lingo. Even in our health center, we have a designated care partner for every resident. They do have to let that one essential care partner in. But, if you have 3 kids, your 3 kids aren't going to be allowed. You have to appoint one. And the last thing, to bring up Phyllis's point, it seems there's some confusion about the do not resuscitate. So DNR is what the medical community calls do not resuscitate. And what that means, if we come upon you and you have no heart rate and you're not breathing and you have signed that you don't want to be brought back to life, you're what we call a do not resuscitate. It's very, very important that you make these decisions as you're well and not wait till something happens to you, because decisions then will be made for you and they may not be exactly what you want. So there is, to Phyllis's point, there is a do not resuscitate, which means you have no breath or heart rate. There's also a do not hospitalize, which we call DNH. So for those of you that might feel, I just can't keep going back and forth to the hospital, that's a discussion you want to have with your physician. All these decisions are made only with your physician. As nurses, we can't say, I'm going to let Dr. Braverman be a DNH. We don't have that ability. You have to have these discussions with your physician. So you can ask he or she about do not resuscitate, do not hospitalize, and there is a third one, it's do not intubate. And that means if we bring you back to life after you stop breathing, and you have a heart rate and you're breathing, do you want a tube to go inside you to continue to help you breathe? Those are the 3 conversations you should be having with your physician. And make those decisions early. Elisa?
How does this information get transferred to your staff?
So, so there's steps that are involved with all of those decisions. So if you and your physician decide, I want to be a DNR, I do not want CPR performed on me, the physician has to write an order, even if you're independent, even if you don't have a medical chart here. The doctor would give us an order that says you are a do not resuscitate. We then will come to you and we ask you to wear a bracelet. The old-fashioned ones, I know, are not the best looking. They're orange, and a lot of people didn't want to wear them, even though they were a do not resuscitate. So they finally have made them much better. They're metal bracelets. They look just like the Medic Alert bracelets, so there's not a lot of distinction between, are you allergic to penicillin or am I a DNR? So that way there, when the nurse comes upon you, the first thing she's trained to do is look on your wrists and your ankles to see if you're wearing a DNR bracelet.
Excuse me, where do you get ordered the bracelet?
Well, first you have to have the conversation with your physician, and if you agree and he or she signs an order, then the community nurses will order you that bracelet.
You can't do it on your own.
No. So again, you want to make sure you let us know that, you've gotten the physician will send the order to the nursing team, so they'll know. And then everything on our records show that you're a DNR. Now, a lot of people get confused. They're reluctant to sign for a DNR because they feel if they fall and they have pain in their hip, we're not going to treat it. We're going to make you have pain forevermore with your hip. That's not the case. A DNR is only pertains if you're lifeless, no breath, no heart rate. Otherwise, we're going to ask you if you want to go to the hospital to be treated. You get treated for everything, pneumonia, fractures, anything that comes your way. The do not hospitalize is used more for people at end of life. You really just don't want to, sometimes, you go out a little bit more often than you wish to. And if you have that conversation with the physician, I don't want to bounce back and forth from the hospital. They also have to write an order for do not hospitalize. And then we won't send you unless you say, I'm a do not hospitalize, but I really need to go to the hospital because I'm in so much pain. Then you can reverse your decision.
Any questions for Peggy?
Those of us who are entrusting our partner to make those decisions, if I fall down and stop breathing or whatever, would my husband be asked what should be done?
Well, we should know because you should have already made that decision with your physician, and then we're notified. So just in case your husband's not home, he may forget to tell us. We have a backup system that we do have a list of people that are on our do not resuscitate listing. However, we go by what you're wearing on your body. So if they come upon you and you're not breathing and no heart rate, we're going to look for that bracelet that I mentioned. I know some of the residents here, I have people sign off because it doesn't make me comfortable. There are people here that refuse to wear the bracelet, but they want to be a do not resuscitate. I can't guarantee that we're not going to attempt to resuscitate you, because if you're not wearing anything, the nurse or whoever comes upon security could actually start CPR. They could start CPR, and we won't know that you've asked not to have CPR done. So for those of you that have refused to wear the bracelet, either on your ankle or your wrist, it is a risk, because if you're not wearing it, we have to act. So don't rely, I guess my point is don't rely on your spouse. It shouldn't have to be, on him, because we would have that information because you would be wearing your bracelet.
Any other question for Peggy? Peggy, thanks for all this really important information.
No problem. I'll leave these here if anybody wants to pick them up. If you need to update annually is minimum, but every time you have a change, please fill out a new form.
And so what do we need to, then we get it, she said us?
Yeah, if you can give it to the community nurse, that is ideal.
And we have to update it once a year?
Once a year. Or if you have any changes during the year, every time you have a change, update it. Because again, you want the hospital to know exactly what medications you're on. DNR and all that is on this form too. I did look, Susie, it is on here. There's a spot for you to check.
Okay. We,
So the question was, do we belong to the Whitneyville Civic Association? Yes, about 3 or 4 years ago, I paid a one-time fee, so we're lifetime members of it. It was like a couple $100. So yes, we are members. There's an annual fee of like $10 or $25, and we paid a lifetime. Yeah. There was a suggestion that we start to go to those meetings. They meet usually every other month. They've been virtual in the past, so then we can certainly look into that, our community going there.
Thank you. We are going to end up on a lovely note, and we're going to want to go to a party, and I'm going to let Lynn tell you what.
So it's time for the annual garden party. And we would like to say that it's being put on by the Garden and Landscaping Committee. So I am going to actually make a motion right now that the committee be renamed from Landscape and Garden to Garden and Landscaping, because our primary job really is to maintain the resident gardens. And it also moves us up a little bit alphabetically in the list for reports during the midterm and annual reporting. So if there is anyone who objects to this on the council, speak now or forever stay quiet. Nobody? Nobody? All those in favor? Aye. Okay, we're now the Garden and Landscape Committee, and we are throwing our once annual, but now it's usually twice during the growing season. The first garden party, with hopes of a second, will be on June 25th, weather permitting, from 2:30 to 3:30. We won't kick you out at 3:30, but we probably will have run out of lemonade by then. So 2:30, Saturday, June 25th, is the plan for the garden party. If it should rain, then it will be on Sunday, same place, same time. And oh, the place is out in the garden, of course.
Thank you, Lynn, and we probably will see all of you there, I'm sure. Any questions before we close this meeting for any one of us? Yes? Ken, did you hear that question?
Yeah, I heard the question about Channel 102 being on for this meeting, so we'll check into that.
If this is the only question, Channel 102. I'm sorry, yes. It has been recorded. It is not being shown live, but it will be shown in about, what, approximately 2 days? Yes. Terrific. Did you have a question?
I think this week's WC Life indicated it was going to be live today, so that's just a small error.
All right. Just to let you know that the next town hall meeting will be on June 23rd, am I correct? And the next Residents' Council meeting will be on July 11. Thank you very much for being here today.